we move into our last chapter, Chapter 9, which is promoting non-discrimination, diversity, and inclusion.
So, within corporate action, organizations typically pursue three distinct types of policies here. Promoting non discrimination is about legal compliance, which is following federal, state, and local EEO law, and avoiding decisions based on job irrelevant traits like sexual orientation.
Promoting diversity often involves affirmative action programs motivated partly by legal consideration and partly by genuine business reasons for increasing representation. Promoting inclusion isn't legally required at all, but it can still provide real organizational advantages.
Okay. Within legal requirements, let's get specific on the law. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based on sex, race, color, religion, national origin, and more recently, pregnancy and childbirth, and it bans sexual harassment outright. There are two legal categories of discrimination, that is, disparate treatment and disparate impact.
There are some exceptions to Title VII. Discrimination based on a legitimate seniority system is allowed, as is sex as a bona fide occupational qualification in narrow cases. The Equal Pay Act of 1963 makes it illegal to pay one sex less for equal work, same skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions. Though seniority systems, merit systems, and quantity or quality of production can qualify legitimate pay differences.
And to add, quotas, by the way, aren't required by law, but they may be permitted specifically to remedy a prior pattern of discrimination. Wages generally get set through job evaluation, looking at skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions across jobs and job clusters.
So the cost of discrimination, it carries real costs, direct costs like fines, punitive damages, and legal fees, and indirect costs like damage to a company's public image, its reputation, and its employees' regard for an organization.
And so here within 2025, changes to affirmative action is genuinely current development worth flagging. Affirmative action was originally designed to help overcome the lasting effects of past discrimination. And in 2025, Executive Order 1124/6 revoked many of the requirements that had underpinned it.
That's right. And so basic anti-discrimination laws remain in place, and affirmative action protections for veterans and people with disabilities weren't affected. But the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs was directed to stop actively promoting diversity. And this is a real shift in the legal landscape worth discussing as an evolving issue, not settled history. So what I mean by that is we saw this as an executive order that DEI programs were affected, and executive orders are overturned when administrations change. So we can expect to see many of the changes that were signed into order with respect to anti-discrimination probably evolve further when we see a new administration take office.
And so, business imperatives, why promote diversity? Setting legal requirements aside, there is a genuine business care here. Firms with a roughly 50% female workforce have outperformed firms with either lower or higher percentages of women. Profitable firms tend to succeed because they make smarter decisions than competitors, and embracing diversity may be part of what makes those decisions smarter.
Inclusion specifically helps prevent employees from feeling alienated from colleagues who are different from them. And this chapter frames three types of organizational diversity cultures: monolithic, plural, and multicultural. And we'll walk through each of these.
For monolithic organizations, they're dominated by one group, often white men, especially in management. Differences between minority and majority employees get resolved through assimilation, and minorities are expected to adopt majority norms and values just to survive there.
These organizations often show low levels of visible intergroup conflict, but the underlying message is clear. We don't really welcome diversity.
And within plural organizations, they take real, genuine, and visible steps to promote diversity in hiring, promotion, and managerial training and practices. But they tend to focus on the numbers, how many majority versus minority employees, rather than actual quality of working relationships between them.
So differences can still get resolved through assimilation here too. And intergroup conflict tends to run high if the majority group resists the organization's diversity efforts. The message is we promote diversity, but we still expect you to fit in with the majority.
And so in multicultural organizations, they go further. They promote both diversity and genuine culture inclusion. Differences get handled by encouraging everyone to actually respect other groups, norms, and values, not just assimilate.
So these organizations make a greater use of diverse work teams, and intergroup conflict tends to run low. The message shifts to we welcome members of all group as full participants and we strive to take advantage of what they have to offer. So this tends to be more of an organization that's like a tossed salad rather than a melting pot. They don't expect new members from different groups to assimilate and melt into each other. They really want people to maintain their individual attributes and become part of that tossed salad, which is why I like the metaphor of a tossed salad far better than the metaphor of a melting pot.
And so, on the benefits of inclusion and belonging, inclusion or inclusive cultures carry real measurable benefits. They, they are more attractive to prospective employees. They support better retention and full utilization of talent. They genuinely enhance the bottom line and they create a competitive advantage over organizations with and that are at weaker at fostering inclusion.
So this slide gives us the first set of recommended organizational actions. Set and clearly communicate goals around non-discrimination, diversity, and inclusion. Comply fully with EEO law. Encourage employees to actively champion diversity and model it for others. Assign real accountability to a senior executive, and make sure employees actually understand how affirmative action functions in the organization.
And continuing the list, work with employee network groups on planning and implementing cultural change. Provide diversity training that builds real knowledge and skills. Analyze the organization's current culture and composition to identify what improvements are actually needed. And make sure achieving these goals gets genuinely rewarded by the management system. And continually monitor progress to ensure that improvements stick rather than just fading out.
So educational initiatives for employees, education and training programs should build several things at once. Knowledge of diversity issues, familiarity with organizational policy on inappropriate behavior, awareness of participants' own stereotypes and biases, skill in moving past those biases, language and cultural fluency in multinational organizations, and managerial skills in making bias-free decisions and handling diversity-related incidents when they come up.
So, all in all, how does it connect? How does everything come together? These recommended actions are largely directed at organizations, but it's individual decisions and individual willingness to change that actually make organizational changes possible in practice.
Yeah, the overall goal across everything we've covered in chapters 8 and 9 and throughout our previous chapters is building a non-discriminatory, diverse, and genuinely inclusive workplace, one where people feel valued for what they actually bring, not for their demographic characteristics, including gender. And that's a good note to end on for chapter 8 and 9. And that's a great note to end on when you reflect over the chapters that we've covered in this class and the content that we've covered.